Hello and welcome to another video. In this video I'm going to show you a different and unique way of creating black and white images inside of Lightroom Classic to go from this original image to this final image via all of these intermediate stages. So I use a technique where I reduce the exposure to create an almost pitch black photo and then bring it back to life using masks. This photo isn't a classic moody cloudy day photo. It's not the kind of photo you'd normally think of for a black and white conversion, but that's partly the point. But more on that at the end of the video, where I'll show you why I created this technique and how to choose the best images to convert into black and white so that you can get the best results possible. Okay then, let's just get on with it. So the first thing I want to do is to come up to my lens corrections panel, and I want to click on the remove chromatic aberration tick box, and what that does is to just remove any purple or yellow fringing that you get on the edges of high contrast objects. So next, just open the basics panel, and all I want to do here is to convert the image to black and white. So I'm going to click the black and white button here, and that applies the Adobe monochrome profile, which is the basic default profile that Adobe applies when you convert to black and white, and that's all I want. I want nothing fancy at this stage, so I'm just going to leave it at that. And now I've got the basic adjustments here, and I'm just going to leave them alone for now. I will be coming back to them later in the processing of this image, but right now I just want to leave that. What I want to do first is to darken the image, like I said before, and I'm going to do that by opening the masking panel and applying a linear gradient, and that's put the masking panel down at the bottom left, as you can see. So I'm going to take my cursor above the image and just drag the linear gradient out and drag it all the way down. And so that has selected the entire image, and I know that because the red overlay signifies what areas of the image are selected. So now I'm going to come over to my adjustment panel for that mask that I've just created, and I'm going to drag that exposure slider all the way to the left, and I can take it down to -4 stops, which is the maximum that you can reduce the exposure when you're inside an actual mask. So now what I want to do is I want to start selecting some of the objects in the photo, namely the fence in the foreground and the church in the background. And so that I can do that more easily, I'm just going to hide the effects of that linear gradient to get my image back so I can see what I'm doing. Now I want to select the church, so I'm going to create new mask, and I'm going to use the select landscape option. And what that's done is to divide the photo into different areas using AI. So I've got, for this particular image, I've got natural ground, vegetation, architecture and sky. And so I'm going to choose architecture and create mask. So now what I can see is that it's done a really good job of selecting that church, but there's a little bit of sky there that is selected that shouldn't be. So I'm just going to tidy that up a little bit. So there it is there, that little bit of sky that shouldn't be there. So I'm going to subtract the mask using the brush. I'm going to have auto mask set to on, feathering and all these three parameters set to 100. Put my cursor over the sky area that I want to remove that selection, and then just remove it quickly. Take that auto mask off to get that middle bit because it's not near the edges. There we go. And then I want to keep the selection of those gravestones at the bottom. That's fine. And there's a little blobby bit down here that I can get rid of. So that's that. There we go, one selected church, and I'm just going to rename that. We're going to be creating a few of these, and I don't want to get confused. Okay, so one of the things I want to do with this image is to light up the area behind the church. So what I have to do now is to select everything but the church by going to these three dots here, get the context aware menu, and duplicate and invert mask. There we go. So now everything except the church is selected, and I can go in and apply or intersect that with a radial gradient later. But first, let's just get that mask back. Okay, it's not the mask itself, it's the linear gradient within the mask. So we'll get that back. There we go. Right, so now I'm going to select my church mask, and I'm going to come over to the exposure slider in the adjustments panel here for that mask, and then just increase the exposure. There we go, and we want a bit less. So now it looks really good. Just by doing that, it looks like it's being lit by the moon on that side of the church. So there's a little problem that I've got there. We'll sort it out in a minute. The side of that church is still very dark, and I want to brighten that up as well. But let's just go to the inverted church mask, and let's just intersect that with a radial gradient. So we can select the area behind the church now. There we go. Let's just stretch that out a little bit. Right, now then, let's just increase the exposure there behind the church. And that is really incredible. I love the effect of that. This is why I start off with a pitch black photo, and then you can bring back things back and you can see how atmospheric it now looks compared to the original. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to create another church mask which just selects the shaded area. So I need to unhide the mask, the linear gradient mask, and create new mask using a brush, and auto mask is on. Let's just go in a little bit there and we'll just mask out that shaded area. So I've got auto mask on, and I'll speed this up a bit so that we can get through this quickly. Right, there we go. Now then, if we unhide that linear gradient mask, now we zoom out. Now what we can do is choose that mask. I'm just going to call it Church 2, and we can increase the exposure. So we could go really bright, but that doesn't look right. So we only want a subtle look. Now I can just about see the side of that church now. That's just about right. So that's the church done. Now I want to do exactly the same thing now with the fence. Before we select that fence and really make this image come to life, don't forget to subscribe, give the video a like, and drop a comment to let me know what you think so far. And if you want to go deeper, then just scan this QR code to join my newsletter. Plus, check out the links in the description below for my complete composition course. It includes assignments, personal feedback, and a private space where you can connect with me and other fellow photographers. So just check that out, as well as some other relevant links related to this video, all in the description below. And now let's get back to selecting that fence. So I'm going to create new mask and select landscape there. That brings up those 4 sections there. I've got natural ground and vegetation. So what you can see there is that the selection is selecting the area around the fence, but not the fence. So what I've got to do now is to select everywhere around the fence and then invert it. And the best starting point is with this natural ground selection. So I'm going to select that and create mask. Let's just call that fence, and we'll unhide the mask 1. So there are selected areas within the fence post that I want to get rid of, so I'm going to do that first. So I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. There we go. You can see that area there. That should be unselected. So I'm going to open up that fence mask, subtract using the brush, and just remove that. There we go. And then there are some other areas here. Put the auto mask on because that's near the edge, that bit. There we go. And now there are some areas here, quite a few of them. I'm going to have to go through manually and do these. So I'm going to speed up the video. Right, so I've tidied all that up, but now I've got a few extra bits and pieces in that bottom right corner there. You can see some barbed wire and areas of grass that haven't been selected. So I've got to add to that selection. Using the brush, I've got to take auto mask off, and then I've just got to go in over that. I'll speed the video up again just to get through all this. Right, now I want to get rid of the top half now, or not get rid of it. I want to select the area above the kind of horizon there, but I need to start off with those trees that overlap the fence. So I need to put auto mask on so I don't go over the edge. Let's just increase my feathering. There we go. And then we do the same here. And then we zoom out and we take auto mask off, feathering down to quite low, and then we'll just go over this quickly, and I'll speed up again. Okay, so that's my mask done now. Everything but the fence is now selected. So if I invert that, I now have only the fence selected. And as you can see, I've still got some little red blobs on the grass there, so I'm going to remove them. There we go. So I've now got one fence selected, and I want to also duplicate this and invert. So what I now need to do, get that mask 1 back, unhide that. So I'm going to take this inverted fence and I'm going to intersect mask with, radial gradient. This is exactly the same what I did with the church, and then just drag that out, and as you can see I can select the area in front of the fence without selecting the fence. And now I'm going to increase exposure. There we go. And we can move that around a bit just to get that where we want. Drag that out. There we go. And now we can do the same with the fence. And up we go. Increase that. And that looks really nice. It looks very atmospheric. Almost looks like a nighttime shot now. But I'm really concentrating the viewer's eye now on those elements where I want the viewer's eye to go to. The fence, into the field and onto the church. And now I've got a few more radial gradients that I want to add because I want to lighten the four corners there. So that's really what I've got to do now before I move on to the basics panel and start re-exposing the whole image. So I'm just going to apply this radial gradient and I'm just going to put it here. Here we go. And then increase the exposure for that. There we go. And we can move that around to get something that we want. That's more in keeping with what we want. Okay, and we can duplicate that and just move that up to the area above the trees there, or yeah, above the tree line in that very top corner. And again we can duplicate that and down to the bottom here. There we go. And we'll just duplicate that again, bring that over here to the bottom right. There we go. Now I also want one over here in the middle because that's a bit dark, so I want to, what you don't want are too many blobby bits, because when you lighten the whole image you'll get big spots of light areas which you don't really want. So you want to avoid that. As long as it looks okay like this, and when we go, then it should be alright when you go into your basics panel. Right, let's just select another radial gradient, and in that top corner there, and let's just expose that. There we go, not too bright, and just need to get that just right. And one last radial gradient for this area here. You could go in with a brush and do it, but I just prefer to do it with radial gradients. And this should be the last one. Okay, so remember we can go in and make changes later to any of these masks that we're making just to tweak things at the end. But now I want to go into the basics panel, and now I'm just going to go through these one by one, starting with exposure at the top there, and just increase the exposure. And you can really see that image now. It just pops now, doesn't it? So let's just get something not too strong. There we go. Let's play with the contrast a bit. I don't think I want too much contrast there. Highlights, we can go up a little bit, not too much. Shadows, let's stay there. So this is all to your personal taste. There's no right or wrong about this. Just waggle those sliders until you get something that you like. So I don't want that. I want to dampen down the whites and the blacks a little bit because they can be a little intense. What I like about softening the whites, the very bright whites and the very dark blacks, is that it softens the image. It almost gives it a feeling of warmth. So I tend to, in these black and white conversions, just soften it a bit by softening those blacks and whites. So I'm really happy with that at the moment. So now I want to come down to my tone curve, and this is the final thing that I'm going to do with this image. And I think the first thing I'm going to do is just go into my point curve, just do a really simple change, go down to my black point here, bottom left, and just raise it up a little bit, remap that to something a little lighter. There we go. That softens it a bit, and then we'll do the same with the whites. There we go. And then the last thing I want to do with this, and this is like my secret weapon, I always save this till last, or often I save it till last, and that's the parametric curve, because you get such sort of an unexpected amount of pop when you slide these sliders. So let's just have a look at the highlights. There we go. I don't mind that being sort of plus 15 or whatever, because that's a really narrow band of the very brightest pixels in the image, and it just made that area around the tree line in the center of the frame a bit brighter there. So onto the lights, let's see. Okay, well I definitely want that a little bit higher, not too much. And then onto the darks, and let's just take that down a bit. And then the shadows, we can darken that up a little bit, just a teeny weeny bit. Okay, so I think we're about there now. I might just want to do one last thing with by applying a vignette. I'll just see what happens when I do that. So let's just see what happens, and we'll change some of these parameters. There we go. Just to nudge the viewer's eye into the image by darkening the edges a little bit, not too much. There we go. So that's before, after, before, after. Just quite a subtle effect, but I think that's just helps push the eye in. Okay, so that is it now. I'm really happy with this. And what I'll do now is just leave it for half an hour or an hour, and I may come back, make some more minor adjustments, because you can see the image in a much more objective way after an hour or so. So I'll come back and maybe make some final tweaks then. But as far as I'm concerned, right now, this image is finished. I'm very happy with it. The reason why I created this black and white technique, dropping the exposure by 4 stops and then rebuilding the image, is simple. It was the only way that I could consistently create this kind of atmosphere with that mood that draws people into the image. I used to do something similar in Silver Effects Pro, but once I realised I could do everything I needed in Lightroom Classic, I stopped using that and developed this approach basically through trial and error. Then once you have a technique like this, the next question is, which images should you use it on? And that is an art in itself. I am a generalist photographer. I don't favour colour over black and white or black and white over colour. I choose what feels right for the photo. For me, black and white works best when colour isn't important to the composition, or when colour becomes a distraction, or when the photograph is really about graphic shapes rather than colour. But that's not a fixed rule, and I do get it wrong sometimes. But for you to get the best results, it helps to understand what kind of photographer you are. Are you a generalist like me, or do you naturally see the world in black and white and want to specialise in that? Either way, you don't need to follow this entire process as a rigid set of rules. You can take parts of it, adapt them, and use what works for you. Even lifting a single stage of this process and applying it across a small set of images can give you a strong, cohesive set of black and white photos with a style all of their own. But more than anything, it all comes back to one thing, and that is composition. And the best compositions start with an inspired moment. So if you want to know how to recognize one of those inspired moments and what to do after you've had it, then watch this video here. It explains the whole process.